Hey everybody, Jason Matthews here, and want to thank you for joining me. Happy Saturday. And if you can hear me, go ahead and just type in yes or leave a like or something like that. Let me know that you can hear me, that I'm coming through clearly, that the video is smooth and everything. I just want to make sure that before we get started, that all the kinks are worked out and that everything is working well. So in case you don't know me, my name is Jason Matthews, and I help people create meaningful connections, but not in the way you might think. And before we get started, if you could go ahead on over to traumaticfreedomclass.com. If you're looking to create positive, productive connections with other people, and you want to learn how to do that in the most effective and efficient way possible, go on over to traumaticfreedomclass.com. It's traumaticfreedomclass.com for those who don't speak mumble. And go and just check it out. It's an invitation to a webinar that I have every day. It's live. And there's nothing you have to pay for. It's completely free. Just go on over and click on the sign up button, fill out the information, and get ready for that webinar. It's going to be an amazing opportunity for you to really find out how to create the most meaningful and impactful connections that you can. Now, as always, I have my trusty tablet here to keep me on track so that I follow a pattern of what's going on and don't get distracted, which I easily do if I don't have something to help me stay on track. So let's go on and get started. So, one second. So people who come to me want my help because they want to know how to create meaningful connections and communicate in a way that other people appreciate. And even though they're all very smart, successful, and people who are willing to do whatever it takes, they tell me that they keep running into people who either want something from them or want to compete with them. And this makes them feel really lonely because they don't feel like they are respected as an equal. And so what I tell them is, in order for a connection to be positive, there has to be the feeling of mutual respect and mutual feeling of being on the same level playing field. And chances are, if you don't feel that way, more than likely, the person you're communicating with also doesn't feel that way. And I want to share a story with you in just a minute, but before I do, if you want to learn how to create meaningful connections with others in a way that creates positive and productive communication and relationships, whether it be personal, professional, or even romantic, go on over to traumaticfreedomclass.com. It's an invitation to a webinar. You can click on the link, there's nothing to buy, and sign up for the webinar, and I will see you there live. It's always live. So if you could also just go ahead and type in traumaticfreedomclass.com into the comments, that'd be really helpful. So the ultimate goal of any connection, whether it be intimate, a relationship, a trusted friend, or even a business relationship, is to be treated with kindness and to know that you can trust others to treat them with kindness as well, knowing that kindness is going to be reciprocated. And having that kind of connection is one of the best feelings in the world. When you have it, you feel like you're on top of the entire world because you have that sense of belonging. You have that sense that you are where you're supposed to be, and you can even branch out and say, what else can I do? How else can I provide meaningful impact to others in my life because I feel like I belong? And since I belong, I want to help other people belong as well. It's a very powerful state to be in, and it really helps you identify what your purpose is, what you find is you're passionate about, and then having the courage to find out how you can do that, how you can actually use that in a way to impact others in the most impactful way possible. And so when you have that connection with somebody, it's not necessarily always going to be a romantic connection. Even we see on TV shows when a man and a woman are partnered together, eventually there comes a time where it becomes romantic. Well, that doesn't happen in real life all the time. In fact, that should never be the goal, to always just have a romantic connection with somebody. Because really what you want to do is just have that sense of deep trust. And when you can look at someone and say, I feel like you're my brother, or I feel like you're my sister, I have that deep of a connection with you, that's when you know that you've attained that level of deep trust where you can tell that person anything, where you feel so comfortable with that person that you know without a shadow of a doubt there's nothing they would ever do to betray your trust, because they rely on your kindness and your trust just as much as you rely on theirs. And it reminds me of the movie by William Shakespeare, Henry V, when he's going into his speech about the Battle of St. Crispin on Crispin's Day. And he talks about, he who sheds his blood with me is my brother. And he calls them a band of brothers, and which is a common theme in the military, is that feeling of that family, that sense of being a part of a family or a community or a tribe that you can trust implicitly and completely. And that's really what this whole thing about connection is about creating that trust and creating that belonging. And this is the part many people have a problem with, because they don't know how to create something called common ground and where to go from there. So in order for you to really create trust, or to create that kindness, you have to have deep trust. But in order to create the deep trust, you need to have a strong social bond with the person or people that you are communicating with. Now, before you can have that deep social bond, you have to be able to know that it is safe enough to communicate with that person on the superficial things. And this is where people really slip up, because they don't know what it is they're supposed to be talking about. They don't know what will be impactful or what will capture someone's attention. They are afraid that they'll be seen as being uninteresting, or that they'll be seen as being egotistical, or that the person won't want to give them the time of the day because they'll have a judgment of them in some way. And I completely understand that. I mean, I used to feel that exact same way, which is what prompted me to get into this topic in the first place, which is what really drove my desire to learn more about the purpose of human interaction and how it works, because I used to feel the exact same way. So what I found is that the best way to start any kind of interaction, regardless of what you want it to be, is to find something that is obvious. Find something that is something that's already out there, something that's already out in the public, something you can comment on that you know a person will not mind discussing about. Let's face it, people don't mind talking about what's already out there. It's what's hidden inside that they want to keep secret, because they don't know if they can trust that information with just anybody, because they've probably been burned in the past and they never want to feel that way again. So what they do is they hide that, and they're looking for someone to connect with in a way that talks about the obvious, talks about something that is already out there, talks about something that is kind of out of the ordinary, but almost like the elephant in the room, where it's obvious but people just kind of ignore it, which is counterproductive, because by acknowledging the things that are obvious, the things that most people don't want to talk about, you're able to really create a sense of, this person's cool, this person's safe, I can talk with this person. And it really shows your own confidence in being able to talk about the things that kind of matter, but willing to put yourself out there. And even if it's something glaring about you and that you see, you can be able to make it as kind of a joke, that shows your own self-confidence. When you're able to talk about something that most people would not want to talk about, like I said, the elephant in the room, that's pink and wearing green shoes, then you show that you have the kind of confidence that other people want to investigate more. Now, once you find that thing, that glaring thing, or that obvious thing that can be talked about freely, then it becomes all about really focusing your attention on the person that you're communicating with. Asking questions that start with what and why. Because not what and why, what and how. Why is a question you want to avoid unless you are seeking a specific answer. In most cases, you want to avoid the why question, but you want to focus on what and how. The reason why is because what is an inquisitive nature about a person's motives, and how what makes a person want to divulge more about the systems that they use to arrive at a conclusion or arrive at a certain mode of behavior. Those two questions will give you more information than any other question, including who, what, and where. Who, where, and when, which are just information questions, and so don't really give you any real information at all about a person's personality. The questions that begin with what and how are going to give you the most information and allow someone to open up without feeling like you are being intrusive, especially when you answer their own questions as well and are willing to be honest with the information that you provide. When you do that, then you are able to go to the next step, which is talking about the things that people care about but necessarily don't feel the need to hide. These are things like daily activities or their work ethics or how they feel about work or whatever. And as you start talking about that, you can actually get into more of a deeper conversation about other things, and it progresses naturally. You'll find that these kinds of conversations are the ones that have the greatest flow, and you're able to go deeper and deeper without much effort. And this doesn't happen overnight. It will never happen over one conversation, which is why it's necessary for you to show that you absolutely care and that you are genuine in wanting to connect with this person. This doesn't work if you are looking for pickup lines or you're looking for a way to just get someone to come home with you. You can use similar things for that, but eventually it's going to blow up in your face. By being authentic in the conversations that you have and the connections that you make, you're going to create much more powerful relationships that will become long-lasting. Long-lasting friends, long-lasting lovers, long-lasting trusted partners, and long-lasting business relationships. So to summarize, everything starts with communication, and the best way to communicate is to find out what is going to help you get to where you want to go. What I mean by that is making sure you talk about the things that are obvious and going from there. Don't worry about making the powerful connection right away. It's never going to happen. By making sure that the connection you have is one that's based on trust and based on a feeling of safety, you'll get to where you want to go. All right, so if you're serious about learning how to create these kinds of connections and how to develop these kinds of relationships, go on over to traumaticfreedomclass.com. Go through the webpage. I made it myself in less than a day. It was pretty quick. Just go through the information. If it appeals to you, click on the button and sign up for the webinar. And I will see you there on that live webinar. All right, so I don't see anybody on right now, so there aren't any questions. As people do come on, I make sure to acknowledge them, and then if they have any questions, I make sure to answer their questions even after they've, even if they viewed it as a recording rather than as a live. It's pretty cool. So, like I said, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And don't forget to go to traumaticfreedomclass.com, and especially if you are serious about creating the connections that will create the kind of results that you want through those connections. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.